Football Manager just released this massive long dev blog about what is going to happen for Football Manager in the next 2 years, and I am actually tremendously excited. They brought myself and a bunch of other creators to London the weekend before this dev blog came out to talk to us about it and the direction Football Manager is going in the future, so I have had time to think about it, and I am just tremendously excited. But there are some kind of funny admissions, including the fact that Football Manager doesn't necessarily think FM23 was a great game per se, or had not lived up to the standards and expectations we have set over the years, and to be frank, we agree. Now that's a pretty interesting statement. This whole dev vlog is pretty interesting. It's coming from a guy named Miles Jacobson, who's essentially the leader of the production team around Football Manager. Now I'm sure the communications team has had several 100,000 passes at this. It was written by Miles Jacobson, and he starts talking about the fact that FM23 is their most successful game ever. Now we're gonna get from there to the fact that Football Manager is introducing an entirely new graphics engine in 2 years. But hold on, because the success of Football Manager is actually what is spurring the development of Football Manager. So Football Manager, if you didn't know, has embraced Game Pass on, Xbox. It has gone on to PlayStation 5. It's in the Apple Arcade again. It's embracing a lot of different platforms that allow people to play Football Manager that hadn't before. Now they say that they were averaging about 2 million players a year before embracing all of these different platforms, but now after embracing them, they've crossed the milestone of 5 million people playing Football Manager this year. And its reviews are high and everything, but the issues that they had with FM23, even though it's their most successful game ever, was that for our long-serving players, FM23's progression had not lived up to the standard. And there's an interesting peeling back the veil sort of thing that happens here. They literally say the FM23 feature set is not what they wanted to deliver. So if you play a lot of Football Manager and you've been frustrated with FM23, that's why. Basically, they tried some new things in the game development, and as they got closer and closer to the release of the game, they had to drop some features that they wanted to include. They said we also weren't able to add enough of the smaller features that really add to the experience for players that go beyond 200 to 300 hours a year, which is essentially the average for somebody that plays Football Manager. So if you're over that, congratulations! I have a problem. Now, in typical Miles fashion, he took responsibility while also having some razor blades on his elbows, where he said some of the criticism was constructive and fair. The responsibility lies with me that this happened, but some of that criticism was unfair and ill-informed. Well, I try to at least always be balanced with the way that we look at the game. Miles, you trying to pull me in swing first? I'm just kidding. Miles and I are best friends.
We have met.
Anyways, that was it for FM23. It was really successful and also underachieved what they wanted to deliver. And in FM24, no new graphics engine, which sucks. But they make it sound pretty. It's a love letter to football and the FM series as we know it. And the way they make it sound in this blog, it's like the end of an era, right? FM25 is gonna be this new era. It's like FM2. It's this new game, where FM24 is the last of the old breed. Now, they don't go into the features necessarily too much, but that they are expecting to deliver a host of improvements, big and small. The vast majority of the team is working on FM24. I think they want to make sure that even though they're talking about FM25, they let you realize that the majority of the studio is still working on FM24, because they do still want you to buy FM24, even though they are now looking forward to FM25. Which honestly, I buy that. I believe it's possible. I mean, they made a lot more money this year because they sold 5 million copies plus of the game. And that's really, as we'll get into more later reading this, that's really what is spurring a lot of the development. Those resources are also present in FM24 too. They've got more resources, so they're able to streamline the development. They finished the features earlier. They're able to tweak them for longer. But of course, all of these features, they don't actually tell us about that stuff. They just tell us what I just told you. There is one thing though. One thing to whet the appetite, something that when I started playing Football Manager, I wished existed. You can now carry your save forward into the next game. So if you have a save on FM23, you will 100% guaranteed, yes, for sure, be able to just continue that save in FM24. And this is something that was actually born out of necessity. I would love to believe that they did this because they've been working on it for a decade. I'm sure they thought about it for a decade. But now that they're on Game Pass and Apple Arcade, the way that those work, and they bring it up in the blog post, is that when the new game comes out, the old game disappears. So not only can you not transfer it into the next game, you can't even play the old game if that's where you had your game. So if you can transfer your game into the next Football Manager, then you can continue to play your old game on the new game because the old game got deleted. Does that make sense? But necessity is the mother of invention. So however it happened, I'll freaking take it because I love playing super long saves, and it means even though Taunton will end at FM23, which is the save we play on Twitch, I will still, you know, when I have some free time, kick the ball around with Taunton a little bit, you know, bring an old save back to life. It's just really cool to have that option. I'm interested to see how often I use it. And then they whet your appetite by saying this won't be the only long time requested feature update coming to FM24, because a big point of this whole section is to make sure that you still buy FM24. At least the way they're making it sound, with the huge increase in resources available to the company, it should be a magnum opus, essentially a refined version of FM23 that is balanced out and has a bunch of requested features and gets us ready for the new engine. The next chapter will be nothing like before. Yeah, Miles and I are very different, but we both have the flair for the dramatic, and I can respect that. For many years, we've been planning the next revolution of Football Manager, something we haven't claimed since the 3D engine first came into the series back in FM09. And in this prologue to the actual changes, they highlight the issue that Football Manager's been trying to tackle, and honestly the reason that they haven't done crazy immersive stuff sooner. How can we bring new people to the series without alienating our existing audience? That's literally the whole game they're trying to play. They don't want to alienate the people that are playing on a 15-year-old laptop and play in 2D and are super addicted and buy every game and log thousands of hours per year, but they want to be able to attract people that don't take one look at the graphics and go, why would I play this mobile game that's on PC? Because they don't understand and they never have the opportunity to learn how great Football Manager can be because they're turned off by the visuals, which is the point I've tried to make when I bring up the graphics. I'm like, look, if you want the game to grow aggressively, every time I explain what game I normally play on Twitch or make YouTube videos about and people watch it, they're like, is the game old? Is it some tiny indie game? Why does it look that way? And you have to kind of, well, look, the story is fantastic and you just got to get into the game, you know, like you have to explain yourself. And with the upgrade in the graphics engine, you won't anymore, because in FM25 Football Manager will be running on Unity. And they say in the blog post they actually looked at all of the different types of graphics engines. Maybe they wanted to overhaul their own that they'd been making, but they decided to settle with Unity. And it's important to highlight this isn't just going to affect the graphics, it's going to affect the interface. So in FM25, you can say goodbye to like the sidebar and like the blocks and the way it looks when you're in the match, because all of that is going to become much more integrated and much more interactive. What exactly that's going to look like, they don't get into massive details here, but they do say in the first sentence of the second paragraph that it is alongside powerful user interface tools. That's something they're very excited about. And then they just kind of butted in at the end that there will be some changes to minimum spec requirements. So obviously using Unity means the game is going to be bigger. Probably not too much bigger because there's just not a ton graphically that goes on in Football Manager, but it will be bigger, and that 15-year-old laptop might finally not be able to run it. But don't count out your smart toaster yet. And they're also going to use Unity to create new technology for new gens and manager creation, which just fire the cannons. Hallelujah! I'm not gonna have to update the new gen pack every year because they're actually gonna be able to look good. That's what I'm freaking talking about. Important caveat though, because apparently a lot of you play FM mobile, it's not gonna be on Unity for FM25 mobile. I don't know how they're going to manage that, but it is absolutely our intention to incorporate the new tech in mobile at some point in the future, but clearly there's some sort of technological roadblock where they can't fit it into the square peg in the round hole for FM mobile. So highly recommend acquiring yourself a gaming console or some sort of small laptop if you're really addicted to Football Manager at this point. And obviously just improving the graphics means the match engine needs to be able to show realistic stuff, because in Unity you can essentially play out a brilliantly animated actual match, which means what's holding back the visuals of Football Manager is going to change from the graphics engine to the match engine. Because if the match engine is still on the old, we're phasing through players and whatever, then the players and the environment's going to look better, those are going to look better, but your actual action isn't going to look better. But they wrote something up about that. They said that they are partnering with an exciting partner from the professional world of football to begin a multi-year shift that involves ball physics and player locomotion. This is something that they're working on over the next 2 years to run alongside the incorporation of Unity in FM25. They noted this requires a considerable investment, but honestly, the fact that they're moving to Unity and seriously investing in ball physics and player locomotion means that we're 2 years away from getting an incredibly realistic match day experience, which is going to make Football Manager so much more engaging for people that aren't just addicted to the spreadsheets like you and I. And because they're not doing enough already with Football Manager 25, they also just tacked on a section that said welcome women's football. Now, we've known that women's football was coming to Football Manager for like 2 years now. Feels like a lifetime, but they actually have set the line in the sand that in FM25, women's football will be there. Rather interestingly, they said what's held back the women's football is not the research or the animations or the kind of rehauling of the graphics engine. It's been various legal issues, which they obviously don't get into too much, but they do note that's the reason that it's taken so long. And it basically comes from another project team that they were able to create because of the amount of money that's coming into the studio. So you're not losing your basic amount of development either. They're just investing the extra money that comes in to create these new teams, to work on Unity, and to work on incorporating women's football into the game. The real important thing to remember here is time will tell. Just because it's in Unity doesn't mean it's not going to have any of the same problems. Your center back is still going to go flying to Narnia every once in a while. Your striker is going to miss a wide open goal. And your goalkeeper is going to kick it off the forehead of some guy on the other team to accidentally score against himself. It's just going to be happening with a lot better graphics. Now, the biggest, most important thing going along with that is I'm sure the graphics are going to be great, is how the development of the match engine itself actually goes along in the process, right? The development of the match engine is going to determine how realistic the game feels now, so no pressure, Nick Madden. I'm watching you. Women's football is going to be fun. I'll finally be able to win the World Cup in the US, and I think that Football Manager itself knows what it was doing here. It's going to be a tough sell to get people to buy FM24, so they're going to need to nail it, and I hope they do. I mean, I freaking love playing the game. I hope they do nail it, and they say they've got a bunch of great features that people have been asking for a long time to kind of hold us over until FM25. But this is cool. They've never done something like this before. They're usually very coy about, well, we never said for sure we were announcing a new game next year. Like, it's almost a meme at this point. So for them to be planning and announcing that they're planning 2 years in advance, I think the most important thing is them turning a corner in terms of public relations to build more trust with a apparently rapidly growing player base. If you want to talk about this more, I'll see you on stream, or you can hit up the comments, as I'll be out of town. I think when this is released, I'll be headed to TwitchCon in Paris, so maybe I'll see you there, or I'll see you on stream. And if you want more Football Manager stuff, or just general soccer football stuff, do subscribe to the channel. I normally am not just reading articles, but this was a very interesting article.